I cringe a little bit every time I see a description that's something like Game of Thrones meets Name of the Wind. And while this is definitely not either of those, there certainly is some good here. Hello and welcome to my channel. In this video, we are going to be talking about The Prophecy of the Yubriy Tree by Ben Spencer. And this was a review copy that was sent to me by the author. And I joke about that blurb because I'm not a fan of Game of Thrones. And I haven't read Name of the Wind, although I'm quite familiar with it, obviously. But still, whenever I see things like that, where I'm like, we're just going to grab different books. And this is something you see all across the publishing spheres everywhere, too. It's like you always have to have the comparisons. And that made me question, but the premise of this one sounded really interesting, and the cover I thought was pretty cool, so I still wanted to give this one a shot. And this does sort of center around the Yubriy tree, and that idea I think is one of the cool world building aspects. But it's this tree, and it sheds its leaves, and when it sheds its leaves at like appointed time, there are prophecies on them. And so nowadays they're all gathered and collected by the king so that they have them all and nobody else can see them and know what they are. But one of them is not found and goes missing, and that's going to have some really big impacts. We're following three different characters here, all that are pretty different as well here too. I found myself the most interested probably in Silas O' the Songs, who is a bard character, and he just wants to do his songs and he wants to write his original songs, and is one of those, like, he's the bard who thinks he's like better than everybody else and yet doesn't understand why people don't like him and that kind of thing. And it's sort of a fun character. He ends up involved with a sort of like seemingly like malcontent kind of scruffy guy called Win Duncan, and they end up in danger and kind of on the run and getting involved from that way. Then you have Johanna Salk, who is the daughter of a very important person, Dagus Salk, who is previously of like the ruling line, but is now under a different ruler. And she is wanting to go off on her own way when it's set up that she's going to be marrying the prince of the now current ruling family. And she is not planning to do that, but is gonna like run off with him because he also is not interested in getting married. But then we're kind of playing the will they end up falling in love type thing, that sort of storyline as well. And then you have the brother of the current ruler, Gregor Thorne, and he is a Jadashi, which is a type of like magic user, and also plays into the idea that we've seen here where they have there's the god of the twins, and when you have twins, one of them is like the true twin, one's the lesser twin. I think it's the twin ascendant. Now I say that is that, and so our character Joanna is the lesser twin, and Gregor as well as the lesser twin. But sometimes the lesser twins can be the Jadashi, which is like they're cursed but can use magic of some sort. And so we're following him as he's that type of character where he's really like the one who knows what's going on and is good with the politics, finding things like getting stuff done and trying to just help out his brother while not overstepping and that type of setup. And with that description, I feel like you could see these aren't like super original character archetypes. We're definitely using some tropes here, and I do get the description trying to call out with Game of Thrones because there's a lot of politics here. We're dealing with multiple different nobles of different lines. There's like the old line that was in charge. There's at the very beginning of this, it's set up that there's a rebellion that was happening that's just sort of ending. So there's lots of different factions, things like that going on. So I can get the comparison there. The Name of the Wind part, I will say, I think is a little bit wishful thinking because I think that's supposed to evoke the prose here. And the prose, I feel like gets better the further that you get along in here, but early on it really felt like somebody intentionally just trying to throw in like big words to make it seem like the prose was better than it is. And there were definitely times where it just felt like okay, they wrote it and then they went and like, what's a synonym that makes this sound the nicest? And I feel like it leveled out quite a bit more, and it was the writing was solid, but it's definitely not to the point of where I think you're going to read this and immediately it's going to stand out as being really good. Which Rothfuss is among many things, he's known for his prose as being one of the things people tend to like about him. So I can see what we're going for here, but again, I feel like you grab the really really ultra popular books. And then you compare yourself to them, you're always going to have a bad time. And it's so one of those things that probably not what I would say. This too, I feel like the stories, they flowed in an interesting ways, and it wasn't the most original for like the actual character arcs. This is described as being character driven though, which I find interesting because the characters themselves did feel a little bit flatter to me, just because we are, doing some things with them, but again, there wasn't a lot of like originality or depth to these characters. And there were parts too, like as you get further in, where characters do something that just doesn't really seem like what we were establishing as well. So I think the characters were not the stronger suit here, but the thing that originally pulled me in and I found interesting is the world and kind of the setup here of the plot. And go figure me with talking about the world, but the idea of the Yubriy tree was really interesting. We also have a play, it mentions in the premise here that there's been a potentially a sighting of a dragon. The dragons haven't been seen for a long time. Sort of the history there. We get through some of like the plots following Silas with songs. He's writing an epic that's about the history of this queen who was very infamous for some things that she did, including involving dragons and stuff like that. And so we're finding out. So some of the history of the world, the interesting things there, I did find engaging. And this was a very easy to read book. I felt like, especially once I got into it, it flowed pretty well. Like I said, I did find myself, I think, liking Silas's parts the most. But I think more so this is one of those books where it does feel like it has potential, and I can see what the author's trying to do, but I don't think everything fully comes together here in this first one for me. But I would be curious to see where this is gonna go. The other thing though is this is the first book in a series. And so I know it's setting up some stuff, but it felt like we were working toward a pretty predictable, but something that made a lot of sense type of ending to this book, and then we just sort of don't get there, and we just kind of end it. And so it's going to be leading into book two, but it makes this book just feel like it doesn't have a satisfying ending because it's just part one instead of being like book one. And so that's another thing too. I think is just as there were times where you could see the author was kind of figuring out what they want to sound, how they want to sound, what their writing style is going to be, what they're wanting to do here. And so I do feel, again, I think this has a lot of potential, and I am curious here to see where this one goes. It's not one that I'm like, yeah, I have no interest. I'm interested in the world and the characters as well, and I think I can see that the author will hopefully continue to hone their craft and get going more, because I see the progression even just with the book. It started off, there were some parts that were like a little bit but definitely got more so as we went along. And like I said, yeah, if you give me an interesting world or just interesting stuff, you make your book engaging and enjoyable to read, even if it's not just like something I'm absolutely like falling in love with, or that's really standing out to me. If it's engaging and I like it and I'm interested enough, you've still really done your job as an author. Like that's definitely a success, and I feel like that was certainly the case here with this one. So overall, though, those are my thoughts on The Prophecy of the Yubriy Tree by Ben Spencer. I'll pop this up one more time just because this is a cool cover. I like tree covers, though, so that's, I don't know. I found there's lots of covers I like that feature trees prominently, so that's just sort of a thing for me. But let me know if you have read or heard of this one, or your thoughts on any of the stuff that I said here. Make sure to give the video a like if you enjoyed it. Check the links in the description, as always, for the Patreon if you want to support what I do, as well as the Wizard of the Enclave Discord if you want to chat books, whether this book, other books, really anything at all. It's a lot of fun. We'd love to have you. And of course, if you enjoy my content, make sure to subscribe.